Alright, so inside of the chair, on the inside, I am going to, you see I have a little pivot point here and one on the other side. That's where the back brace is going to swivel. It'll swivel in here so they can recline it or pull it forward a little bit. And what I have here is a board. This is a 1x6, and on the bottom you see I have two rounded pieces here. I'm going to cut this in half and then round the ends, and it'll pivot here and here. And then I'll put a couple of braces through the middle, probably 3 of them, to hold the back panel as well. So one other thing, I have to build this up a little bit because the arm sticks out just a little bit on the inside here. So I glued 2 blocks together of 1-inch material, which is actually 3/4 inch nominal size. I'm going to round these over, make them look a little bit nicer, and they will sit on the inside. And then this, oops, they will sit here, and then this swivel piece will sit outside of that, and then it will clear the side arms. So let's go cut these braces, or those 2 side pieces, out for the back brace, and then we will round these corners and sand all these flush as well on the disc sander. I think I'll use that to do this. I'm going to cut this first with just a handsaw. Now we will take the corners off of these. take the corners off of these too. Alright, so I'll cut the others out there. Sorry, I had to cut this one so awkwardly. The camera tripod was in the way. So I have this cut and these kind of roughed out. So I'll cut the other two. There's two of each of these. And then we'll take them over to the disc sander to kind of finish the edges up. Alright, so over at the disc sander, we have our vacuum dust collector hooked up, and we'll finish rounding these over nice and smooth. Okay, with all of those done, now we'll head back and well, I think actually we'll look at the overall brace. No, I'll change my mind again. Let's attach these first. Make sure we find our center points. And then with these on there, we can build the back support with the two side pieces, and then we'll know how wide or how long to cut the center supports. So I got a little ahead of myself and forgot that when I cut this in half, I have to plane this so that it's smooth. So just a couple of passes. Put that back into the rounded end. And that's good for that one. Remember to always make sure that when you look at the little flecks of grain in here, when the grain travels up this way, you want to plane it that way. The grain goes up like this, plane it that way. Otherwise it'll break out on you. That looks good. Just a couple of passes will do it. Okay, so I am going to set up my router table just to make quicker work of these. Not that I'm rushing to get this video out, but I'd like to just knock these corners over. Same with these blocks here, and we'll set up over at the router table and do that. Okay, so here at the router table, as like a lot of you at home, brand new router table doesn't quite fit your budget. I made this out of just extra pieces of 3/4 inch plywood, and it has a fence that goes back and forth if you loosen it up with some lag bolts, a door in the front here where I have a router mounted underneath, and in here I have a 3/8 inch roundover bit. So we'll fire it up, and the bearing on top of here will ride along the wood. So I really don't need the fence, but I'll just feed it in this way. wood was burning just a tiny little bit, more so on this one, and what you heard was it set off the smoke alarm right above it in my shop here. So okay, so I only did one side of these because this side is going to go flush against the inside of the chair, and this just needs to look pretty. And I'll do the other side of this, and then we will determine where we want our center braces here and put that together. Okay, so we have our blocks all rounded over, sanded up. One side is flat, and then what I did to secure this to the side of the chair is just drilled down about a 1/2 inch with a 3/8 inch Forstner bit, and that will allow my screw head to go down inside of there. And I have my centering point for the backrest support. It will swivel right on that point. I know that measurement and where I want that, so I'm not too worried about that right now. I'm just going to get this down. I'm going to line it up with this and keep it about a 1/4 inch away from the bottom. So right there I think should be good. And then I do have the grain also running the same length, so this will be parallel with the grain in the side, just in case this does expand and contract a little bit like wood does. These two will kind of act together. So I have a 2-inch construction screw here. This is the, I guess they're calling it nowadays the lobe design. Used to be the Torx head. So this would be a T25, I believe. So number 8 construction screw, and I have that so it'll go down and won't blast out the other side. So I set my drill bit to the same depth as that screw, and we'll put a little bit of glue on here. Even though I'm going to cover my hole, I know the exact dimensions for that, so I'll put that back on later. Make sure this is about a 1/4 inch down and lines up with the side brace there. I'll drill for this. This down in there. And after that glue dries, that will not go anywhere. Okay, so like I mentioned before, the glue would probably be strong enough, but I'm always a fan of a mechanical fastener. Over the years, several decades, maybe 3 decades, I've built different things, and I've even repaired for some for some antique dealers, repaired some of their work, and a glue joint will always give out. Always, always. I've repaired some dressers from the 1800s, and true antiques, and the drawer joints, they'll always come apart. So I'm a fan of glue, and today's glues are much stronger, but I've also built dovetailed things where the glue will come apart in 5-10 years. And if you have a little mechanical fastener, even like just a few pin nails that you fire in there, it keeps them together. So that is my thoughts on that. Okay, so we'll flip the chair over, put the other one in, and then we'll find our center points, and then we will set out to build the back brace for this. Alright, so both of these blocks are mounted, and I've reestablished my pivot point here. So basically the pivot point here will be right on here, and then this will allow the chair to recline a little bit more. And most likely I'll just drill a couple holes in the arm like they used to do in the classic Morris chair, and that will allow it to change. So what I want to do next, I guess, is I want to have 3 pieces in between here to make the kind of the cross members, or the horizontal cross members of the back brace for the back of the chair, the backrest. So what I did is I need to measure between these 2 pieces here, and you can do that with a ruler. It's kind of hard to get in there, so I have these little, I can't quite recall the name, I think they're pinch rods, where it's basically a dowel that's split in half and tapered, and when you loosen these up, they expand and they contract. But you can go inside like this and get the exact measurement. So I have that, and that is 21 3/16, and then all I have to do to get the length of my cross piece is subtract this thickness here, and that is going to be 1.5 inches, because that's exactly 1.5 inches, because these are 3/4 of an inch. So I'll take 1.5 inches off of that measurement, and I'll cut 3 pieces that go here, and we'll do that right now. Okay, so I set up a stop block here and measured out I ended up making this, instead of 19 11/16, I made it 19 5/8, just to give it a little bit of wiggle room in there for everything to move. So I need 3 of these, and this is a 1x4, so it's 3/4 inch by 3.5. So just like the others, it's very important that these 3 are all exactly the same length, because they're going to go in between the 2 side pieces for the backrest of the chair. And if you were to find that they weren't, you could just set them all up and cut them all at once too, but these all look and feel perfect. Okay, so let's go over to the vise, and we'll round all these corners over before we assemble the backrest. So the back brace for the chair, or the back support for the chair, which will hold the cushion in here, has 3 horizontal pieces that will support it, and they will be attached to this outside piece with long screws that go in from the outside into the end grain here, and a little bit of glue in there as well. I've used that before and it seems plenty strong. Plus we'll also have a piece of plywood, 3/4 inch plywood here for the backing, and then a cushion over that, and then fabric over that. So all that's really left for this back support would be to round over the corners of these. So we'll do that at the vise. Alright, so we will double check our grain. All we're going to do is slightly round these over. Put about 1/8 of an inch chamfer on there, and then just change from a 45 to about a 22.5. And that should take care of it. Even though the upholstered cushion is going to sit up against this, I'm still going to round these over so it looks finished in there. You never know how the upholstery is going to sit flush up against there. So I will continue to do the remaining sides on all of these, and then we'll start the assembly. Alright, so I have the two side pieces and all 3 of these rounded over, and I made a template that will fit here, and what that will do is I'm going to use the center line for these pieces, and then they will sit back just a little bit right on the center line, and that will allow the front cushion to sit just a little bit ahead of that, and there'll still be kind of an inset here. So in order to position these 3.5 pieces and where the screws will go, this template I'll lay over top of it. And then we will mark our 6 holes. And then this one we will flip over and do it on this half. And that should be it. So now when this piece flips up here, they become each side. This piece is on the bottom half and this is on this bottom half, or they're both on the back. So what we'll do is I will drill these through. First I'm going to do a 3/8 inch Forstner bit that will accept the screw, and I'll also then it'll allow me to put the screw plug in here as well, so that'll be nice and clean. Then we'll drill through and we'll put a nice long screw into the end grain here with a little bit of glue. So let me drill these first and then we will assemble this. Okay, so we have our 3/8 inch Forstner bit here, and we're going to drill down, and I'm just going to go again about a little bit deeper than the head of the Forstner bit. That will allow enough room for the screw to go down in there. It'll still grab enough wood, and it will allow me to put the screw plug in. see the Forstner bit tip kind of grabbing that hole when I put it down here, moving it over. I took a scratch awl, and just put a little hole, punched a little hole down inside of there so that tip would catch it. I did that after the pencil marks. So that should be enough. Now I'm also going to drop this down a little bit, and I'm going to drill a hole all the way through. And I'm going to set this up first. That's just kind of an extra piece of wood. Down here at the very end, I am going to drill a 3/8 inch hole all the way through, and that is going to allow this bolt, this lag screw, to go all the way through, and the shaft on the top here is 3/8 of an inch. So this will allow this to go right through there, and then the lag screw will screw into that block I put inside the chair, and then this will allow this piece to swivel back and forth. And all you'll see on the outside is this lag screw and the washer. So I'm going to put a piece of blocking behind it, so when I drill through there isn't any breakout on the back. And you can see, because that drilled into there, there's a real clean hole on both sides. I did make sure that when I measured and set my template up here, I measured from the bottom of one side, just in case this piece was a little bit longer than its partner piece there. I always started from the bottom so that where this aligned for the swivel, it was exactly the same on both pieces, and then I measured up from there. Okay, so let's clamp all the back support pieces together and put our screws through here. Alright, so everything on the back rest of the chair is cut and pre-drilled, well, with the Forstner bit holes. I still will have to drill the screw hole, but it's all lined up. Everything is nice and square. And I have clamps on here just holding it together. I put just a little ribbon of glue in there just to help hold it together as I do it, and it'll give it some strength too. So I'm going to use a 2.5 inch screw here, so I go pretty far into that end grain, and we'll drill an 1/8 inch hole. So I set my bit to there, and we'll drill through here. Probably switch hands here. Battery's wearing out, it sounds like. Here. And that should be good. Then we will, once we put all these screws in, we'll glue up some screw plugs and put the plugs in there, and sand all those, or use the chisel and the scraper to make all these flush, and then this will be ready to mount into the chair. So I'll do all of these, just screw all this together, and then we'll start up again when we're ready to mount this into the chair. Alright, so it's time to drill a hole in this big block and down into the side frame here to accept this 5/16 inch lag screw. So what I did was I probably should have done this, or could have done it, I should say, on the drill press. But I didn't really know where the hole was until I mounted it on here. I guess I could have screwed it on here, pulled it off, and then put it right back on. But I'm okay either way here. It'll still work out. So what I did was I set this up on the workbench and I leveled it. Just put a few shims here and there so that this was level. And then I'm going to use a corded drill because the corded drill has a level that you can use when you drill. So I've set the depth of this, so there'll be the 3/4 inch piece here, and then this depth will go in. I double checked that it wouldn't blow out the other side, and then we'll just set it right on the point here and drill in. And we'll watch our level and make sure that everything works okay. Looks like it's working pretty well. As soon as we know that it's level and we have enough to hold the bit, we'll finish the depth. There. Okay, so now we'll do the other side, and then we will thread this through, and the back should be ready to, or the back should be installed. So before I put the back in here, I'm going to take a ratchet. This is a 9/16 ratchet, and I'm just going to screw this in here. Just to let the threads cut themselves all the way down in here. Okay, so now the threads have, that's pretty warm. So now the threads have been cut in there, and that will grab it. And then this here will act like a little axle for the backrest, that hole I drilled, to fit over this and swivel. So before we mount the back, I'll put some beeswax on here and on here, just to keep everything from locking up too tight, so I can always take this out if I want to take the back off. So I put the lag screws in, and this is how it fits in here. So I'll probably have it so people can have maybe 1 or 2 settings. So it can go all the way back and hit the back brace here, which is kind of reclining, or bring it up maybe just maybe 1 or 2 settings, and that will be just by drilling holes in here and allowing them to put a little pin or a rod or something in there. So that's it. I didn't put the screw plugs in here yet in the backrest, just in case I had to take it apart and readjust something. But I think we're all set, and I can put the screw plugs in, the final screw plugs, in the top of the arms as well, the armrests and the back. And then just a little bit of touch up everywhere, and make sure we don't have too many, if we need to sand it a little bit, too many smooth places. We'll do that in a bit. So I'm going to take the rest of these screw plugs out after I filled them. Since they're on the top of the armrest, I was a little bit nervous about using the chisel since it is so flat, and I thought I would use a little bit of sandpaper and a block. But for starters, I made this piece of paper to just go over it, and that'll protect this while I cut it. Put a little hole in it, and then I'll use the flexible saw here to just take almost all of it off except for the thickness of that paper. And that makes pretty quick work of it. And then I just have a piece of the sandpaper inside of a block. Sorry, the block inside of the sandpaper. And sand that down until it's flush. And then take the sandpaper out of the block and just gently sand a little extra of that glue out of there. Alright, so I will do the rest of these on the top here and then also on the backrest, and we're almost ready for our white paint. There, that's nice and smooth. Alright, so I thought I would brave one here with a chisel and let's just see how it goes. Hopefully it won't tear out too much. Oops, I forgot to saw this one. So let me put my piece of paper over here. Alright, had to do that one first. Now we'll do this one. Saw it real close. And then just that little bit left. Go from the diagonal and just kind of move it and shave it. Actually working better than I thought. So it's a little bit risky to do it this way, but take a little bit at a time. That takes the glue right off of there. And then I'll just hit it with a little bit of this sandpaper and a flat block. There, that actually worked pretty well too. So, just like anything, multiple ways to do things. I'll lightly sand this, but this I'm using the 60 grit again. Why do I always forget what grit this is? Yeah, this is 60 grit. And that's as fine as I'll go. So the paint sticks to it. There, I think that looks just fine. Alright, so the chisel by itself or the sandpaper and the block by itself, I think both work okay.